started my firm about 17 years ago, as any young architect who is no longer young does, and thinking that our goal should be a very simple one. If we dedicated our practice to exploring travel, to exploring imagination, and to always push the realm of what's possible, I wondered what we could do. And I think that we've realized, in our view, design has a very singular and specific goal. We want to create joy in what we do. It's really that simple. Travel is an integral part of that, and before we start the first slide, I was very lucky to travel a lot as a child. We went to the Middle East, all over Europe, and when anyone asked me what my favorite food was, I always said, proudly, airline food. So here's the first slide. Right out of graduate school, I had the opportunity to work on this project in Manila, a pair of towers, and I finished the drawings in 1998 and did not see the actual building until I went back to Manila 20 years later. And I was thrilled to see them even better than I imagined them. Imagination is one of the themes of my favorite author, Jorge Luis Borges, who taught me that you can go places that don't yet exist, like this fantastic hotel in Switzerland. And some of the things I'm showing are things we've created, others are things that inspire us. We try to locate ourselves in our place. I live in New York City. Nature is precious. So the ability to relate in a visceral way, such as this sauna in Norway, is so important. And in cities, it's not only the grand monuments or the sense of history that is so compelling. It can be the leftover spaces, how a little bit of color can create a spontaneous basketball court in Paris. These are lessons that we try to study. I went to Tokyo and was walking to make a pilgrimage to the Prada store in Omotesando, celebrated masterpiece of contemporary design, and I saw this very modest sidewalk set into a sloped hill with incredible precision and humility. We're now working in China and had to confront the question of how do we look forward, how do we juxtapose old and new when we contemplate additions to a historic courtyard house in Nanjing. Travel gives us history, it gives us craft, it gives us memory, it gives us art. We see these as the forces of innovation. As we look forward, they press back on us. They're a resource. Here I went to rural Bohemia with a glassmaker who was using techniques that were 800 years old. And I realized that part of travel is awareness of our own human capabilities and our own human potential. The skill, the passion, these little things are a gift. They're a gift to the present and to the future that we make from the past. So we use those pieces, you see them here on the ceiling, to create a beautiful light sculpture inside our lobby at Hudson Yards. 400 pieces dance overhead, each representing 800 years of history. And this is clearly a place where we found joy and delight. So travel is about how we apply these lessons, but it's also an act of discovery, thinking how can a building live in harmony with nature, even if it's a barren Scandinavian landscape? How can we think about translating materials and forms? I love Scandinavia. I'm inspired by the simplicity and the humility of it. And here, this incredible meadow and this barn-like house disappears into the landscape. And it's not about human greatness, it's about human modesty. And my favorite part is how the unexpected can shatter every preconception you have. This is a piece by Olafur Eliasson in the Gardens of Versailles, where he has transformed water to its most elemental state of cascading in a surreal-like moment of beauty that is unique. So we thought of these things as we started designing a house in the Hamptons, a beautiful landscape outside of New York City, where we didn't want it to be about the house. We wanted it to be about nature. And there is also something about travel, how we can learn from landscape and bring it into our buildings, as this beautiful example shows us from the Alps. These are things that I see, I bring back, I email to my office. I was walking along the banks of the Thames and saw this incredible detailing, glass, profile, layers, just stunning how it all came together with really almost nothing to it. And in China, this idea with the same concepts in another expression, the dappling of shade and shadow, texture and pattern, reflection and light in this beautiful spa in Minhang was a great inspiration to us. So we started thinking, how can we bring these things to a facade of a building in New York City? How can we take concrete, which is the most banal, simple material, and how can we turn it into a richly textured expression of art and craft that plays with light and shadow? And so we brought these things to this building. I was in Clerkenwell, and I met a jewelry maker who showed me in a pop-up shop a pair of antique lapis lazuli stones that she had, which I loved. And I said, can you make me some cufflinks? And this went back and forth. It's a little thing when I travel, I like to buy cufflinks. And her idea became, for us, the one decorative, which we created with Kohler as a bespoke piece for one of our buildings at Hudson Yards. It's this idea that walking through a show, through a pop-up space can give you something beautiful. So when I land home in New York, every time the wheels hit the tarmac, my heart jumps a little bit. I guess that's why I'm a New Yorker. But for me, the best part of traveling is coming home. And it's bringing all these memories back and having the opportunity here to have that touch, that recollection of so many things in something as simple as a faucet. So thank you all.